What's going on, everybody? It's J-Swag coming back at you for another manga chapter review. This time we're going over One Punch Man Chapter 169, Daybreak. I felt like this was the perfect chapter for me to start getting into One Punch Man reviewing. It's right after the Monster Association ends and Saitama's fight with Garo. So I could have reviewed the chapters, the 2-3 chapters before this that covered the Garo fight with Saitama, but that's kind of just all fight, not really any exposition, and that's been covered to death. So I wanted to start with this one, and that's what we're going to do. We're starting here with Garo right after he receives the Zero Punch from Saitama, traveling back in time, and he is he's confused. He's like, that punch, like it had more power than even Saitama could put into a punch, because he only knows the past Saitama at this point, not the future one that was powered up by the Cosmic Fear Garo pushing him to his limit on Mars, or the moon of Mars. And so Garo is down on the ground, he's losing his power, and he is getting surrounded by the heroes that he hunted earlier in the series. We have the tank toppers just kind of over him, and they're like cracking their knuckles, about to give a little beatdown to Garo. But then we're cutting over to Genos and Saitama has the future core in his hand. And Genos is looking at it and he's like, yeah, this does look like my core. And it's funny, we see Saitama with his crotch tied together, because when his future self fused with this current Saitama, the future one was naked, that one was closed, so when they fused, he lost clothes in some spots, and he had a little bit showing down there, so now he has that tied up, which is funny. But we have Genos connecting to the core, and he's getting flooded with all of the memories that were between Saitama and Garo fighting, because Saitama was holding the core from the moment that it got the moment that he took it from Garo after he ripped it out of Genos. So Genos is seeing all of the memories, and Genos is putting together that there's no other option, that this core is from a parallel world, a parallel future. And Saitama's like, what are you talking about? And he tries to explain it to Saitama, and we get a text bubble that is like more text than a normal manga chapter would have in the entire chapter, of Genos explaining how the, I guess, timeline splitting is working. And this is kind of a joke, but it's actually, I believe, one explaining to us how this actually works. So there's an initial split of the timeline, and later in the paragraph Genos will say that the split point and the merging point of Saitama's future and past selves can tell us where the timeline split. So the timeline split happens when Saitama merges back with himself, which is right after the Zero Punch gets delivered. So the timeline splitting event, in my opinion, is Saitama not being there to stop Cosmic Fear Garo from doing his little ultimate evil walk down, because we get that panel of Garo landing in front of all the heroes, and it's like, this is ultimate evil, and he does his walk down and the radiation starts to kill everyone. So Saitama not being there, in my translation of all this, is causing a split in the timeline, which is making it possible for him to, in the future, come back in time and reappear at this event to cause it not to happen at all. So that's how I interpreted this. But in the next panel, we see that all this text bubble is going into Saitama's ear in one, and then just out the other. So he's not taking any of this in, which is fine. Saitama doesn't need to know how any of this works. He just needs to punch the monsters and have them go away. But Genos is like, he's kind of like cheesing, because he's like, dang, Saitama like fought against all of reality and like transcended reality to save everyone, to save the world, and no one knows about it but me. And he has like a little smirk, and Saitama's like, what's so funny? And Genos is like, nothing. But he's like, but I need to tell people about this. And this will come up later on in chapters of Genos kind of doing another huge paragraph expo dump on some other people, but we'll cover that when we get to it. But Genos is going on to say, Sensei, you showed up in the nick of the time, just like you always do. And Saitama's like, nah, I'm usually not on time. And Genos is like, yeah, you were definitely on time. Which is funny because he was not on time. That's the whole point. He had to go back in time to be on time. So that's funny. Genos is interpreting everything, but he's not understanding that the whole thing happened because Saitama was in fact not on time. But anyway, we're cutting to Terio here, and he's unconscious from the radiation, but he's not dead, thankfully, because he didn't get fully exposed for the same amount of time as the one who died in the future did. But we're getting like a voice talking to Terio, and it's saying, Terio, stand up. And he gets up, and we see a future like Cosmic Fear Garo, except it's like his face instead of the galaxy face, and he's just smiling at Terio, and then he kind of fades away as Terio runs towards him. And this is just a beautiful thing. This is kind of like the closure of our future Garo character. He got to see that at least one version of Terio was able to survive, even though he kind of killed the other one. But Terio is still here, and he's hearing voices in the distance, and we're seeing that the voices are all of these heroes just beating the crap out of Garo. And Garo's just kind of taking it, and the narrator's stepping in, and he's saying, losing his divine power from a mysterious knockout punch, Garo couldn't understand a single thing that had happened. Yet strangely, he accepted it without resistance. Perhaps it was because of everything that had been set up by his future self, though Garo had no way of knowing that. So this is kind of like, I feel this is kind of a merging of the future and present Garos, just how we got with Saitama, but more in a consciousness sort of effect. Maybe that little apparition of future Garo that we just saw fade away went into this Garo, and that's why he's kind of accepting all this. But we have Metal Bat stepping in and kind of defending Garo here, which we know Metal Bat and Garo kind of have that little bromance going on from them fighting Elder Centipede together. And we got that sick explanation of their powers kind of amplifying each other, how Metal Bat definitely wasn't as strong as Garo, but the frequencies of their power were amplifying with each other and causing them to do massive amounts of damage. So these two kind of have a connection, and their powers match up very well together. So I'm thinking we're going to get a Metal Bat Garo team up in the future for like some fights, and that's just going to be sick to see because I love both of these characters. But he's pissed that these heroes are just smacking him around because he's just an injured guy, and that's just kind of some of that Metal Bat pride. But we have a My Mask stepping in, and he's like, he was fully monsterfied. The execution of this man, it has been unanimous. And this is just a My Mask being a My Mask. We know he has some beef with humans who are kind of pushing towards the edge of monster, and he's kind of shady himself. He had that little stab from Super S in the Monster Association arc where his eye was all bloody, and then he covered it with and his face got all veiny, and then when he took it away, he was healed. And then not only that, he totally got ripped in half by I don't know if it was Fure Ugly or Vomited Fure Ugly, but he just gets totally ripped in half, and then a couple chapters later he's back and he's like, oh, that monster ripped my jeans. And it's like, did he rip your jeans or rip you in half? So My Mask is a little shady. The only things we know that have regeneration in the story are monsters. So My Mask kind of having beef with Garo here because he was a monster, and then we see in earlier chapters he beefs with Zombie Man a little bit, because we know technically Zombie Man should be considered a monster, because when Dr. Genus talks about what is considered monsters, he considers his own experiments to be monsters, and we know that Zombie Man is experiment 11, 8, one of those numbers, but he's a Dr. Genus experiment. So technically technically Zombie Man's a monster, so that's kind of we'll get some more explanation into a My Mask in some of the actual his storyline should be getting covered in some of the chapters that are coming out in the next coming months. So that's going to be cool to see. That was covered in the webcomic, and will probably be way more expanded upon in the manga. But we also have Saitama agreeing with Metal Bat. He's like, yeah, I didn't agree to this execution, and he's changing the subject. He's like, who took down Garo anyway? Was it Blast? And Flashy Flash is like, I couldn't see, but someone did swoop in, punch Garo, and then swoop out, and they were naked. That is Blast's playbook. And everyone's like, what, Blast? My ass is like, why Blast? And Stitch is like, Stitch, the One Hero Association rep, he's like, what, Blast was actually here? And then we get a little, this is a small panel of everyone freaking out, and then we have a smaller little text bubble that says reputational damage, so that's kind of funny. But we have Genos saying that he thinks that Saitama is the only one who should be able to decide what happens to Garo. And Saitama's like, yeah, but like, I don't really care. Saitama doesn't care. He couldn't care less. And he's seeing that Garo is just kind of taking the punishment and not caring. So he's like, yeah, why don't just like let everyone beat him up until they don't feel like it anymore, and then we'll see what happens after that. Because Saitama couldn't care less. But we have Zombie Man stopping everybody, and he's like, I need to put some exposition in the air real quick. And he's like, Garo, there's no way a human could have gained that much power in that little amount of time. Are you sure you didn't have someone give you power? Maybe God? And this is great. And we have Flashy Flash reacting to this because we know that when Saitama and Flashy Flash were under the Monster Association and came in contact with the Cube, Blast came and gave them a little expo dump on God. And he's saying, yeah, Blast did mention God. And we know that Zombie Man got the God info from Homeless Emperor. He beat him, asked him how he got his power, and then Homeless Emperor said God, but before he could say more, God took his powers away, turning him into salt, which is great symbolism. Garo also gets turned into salt when he's showing Saitama how to go back in time. Great symbolism there. But we have Garo just kind of like freaking out, being his arrogant self, being like, what the hell are you talking about? That was all me. I'm the one who did it. And he's kind of asking for death. And on him asking for death, we have a My Mask jumping the gun, doing his little like hand veiny thing, and going for the kill on Garo. But we have Terrio jumping in to stop him. And Terrio's like, how could you guys do this? Like, Uncle saved me a bunch of times. And that's true, man. Garo has saved Terrio many, many times. I'm thinking back to that Death Gatlin scene. I wish that was animated better in the anime. Anyways, but we have King realizing that this is the uncle that Terrio was talking about, because King was kind of escorting Terrio through the Monster Association, and Terrio was worried about Garo and was asking King like if he saw him to like take care of him. And a My Mask is kind of like trying to placate Terrio here, like, oh, don't worry, like, just go away, we'll take care of him, nothing's gonna happen. But Terrio's like, you're full of shit, I heard you say you're gonna execute him. And we have all the other heroes arguing and not knowing what to do. But then the King engine starts going, and we see this panel of King, and it's just maximum output on the King engine, and everyone's like, oh my god, oh my god. And he's like, what are you guys doing? A child is watching. And they're all shook, and all the heroes just part like the Red Sea, and he's like all badass. He has Tatsumaki in his arms still. He's walking up to a My Mask and Terrio and Garo, and a My Mask is like, hey King, and King's like, and a My Mask just shuts the hell up. And the King is walking up to Garo, and even Garo is shook. Like, Garo's looking straight down, like half of his face is shaded out. So this is so funny. Everyone is so hype on King. But before King can say anything, we have Bang coming in and saying he's not going to let Garo throw his life away. He's saying he's going to make Garo pay back everyone he hurt 10 times. He's going to make him save 10 times as many people as he hurt. And Saitama chips in and says, yeah, isn't that what absolute evil is best at anyways? Because before Garo goes cosmic fear, we know when he was fighting Saitama, all of the attacks that he was doing on him were inadvertently saving a bunch of people. We had that sick karate chop. He does the same karate chop, I believe, that he did on Elder Centipede on Saitama, and it like sends him into the ground, and the shockwave reverberates through the whole earth and sends a continent on the other side that was under the ocean up above the ocean, saving a plane that had been stranded. And we actually see, I want to cover this, shout out to Zonin on YouTube, probably one of my favorite YouTube accounts. He covers, in the manga, there's a little one shot that happens before one of the chapters of Saitama going around and beating all these temples and collecting these cubes and then summoning something called the Cruel Dragon. And this is all a parallel to Blast's hunt for the cubes with his team and the resurrection of God. So when Garo delivers this karate chop to Saitama and he gets sent through the earth and the continent comes up saving that plane, we actually see a temple on the continent with the statue of the Cruel Dragon's head from that one shot in the webcomic. So hopefully Oda does that one shot, or not Oda, hopefully One does that one shot again in the manga, and we get even, because with the manga we get so much more expo than we have in the webcomic, so hopefully we get that, and then it's just expo to the max, and that would be just so exciting. But anyways, Saitama is saying, yeah, isn't that what absolute evil is best at? And he's like, everyone showed you how great you really are. And Garo's like, are you sure? Do you really want to let me live? And Saitama, and he's like, you're going to regret that. And Saitama's like, no, I'm not going to regret anything. He's like, I actually want to thank you for saving Genos and King back when Garo had his badass entrance when all of the Monster Association and heroes were fighting each other. He saves King and Genos from Evil Natural Ocean and Platinum S. He does like the sick like flyby, and he saves them from getting murked. So another instance of him absolute evil, totally saving people. But Garo's like, huh, you guys make me sick, and then he just disappears. So Garo's out scot-free, my boy. Good to see. But everyone's like freaking out. My mask is especially pissed. Genos is like, he'll probably be a repeat offender, which is, oh man, I love Genos so much. But everyone's about to leave, but then we get a like drill tank coming out of the ground, and it's Metal Knight, man, and we see the Metal Knight army come through at the end of the arc, just like at the end of the Boros arc. He's coming in, he's probably collecting monster corpses. He's clearing the nuclear fallout from Cosmic Fear Garo's attacks. Every one of his piss was like a nuclear bomb. He let off that gamma ray burst that definitely can't be good for the Earth. So he's here. He's taking care of the nuclear fallout, and I just want to point out how many drones this man has. Oh my gosh, the amount of drones that this man has. And then that's on top of, these are like totally different from the stuff we saw at the end of the Boros army, or the Boros arc. So like, oh my gosh, the amount of stuff this has. And he says, the ship I designed caught a nuclear blast. The ship. I feel like that's not waterborne ship. Like, I feel like he's got like a space station or something, like a giant spaceship that he's posted up in. Because like Metal Knight, he could have like a remote base, maybe like a remote base like in the ocean or something. But if we're really thinking where's Metal Knight's base, like it's probably in space, and he probably has like a huge Justice League type space station sort of get up. But he's here, he's cleaning up the nuclear fallout, and he's also treating all the heroes for like nuclear radiation that they got from because we know that all the future heroes straight up died from being exposed to Cosmic Fear Garo for so long. So he's treating them all for that. And then we just get a beautiful ending shot of Saitama carrying Genos into the sunset. And he's like, yeah, we should probably take you to Dr. Kuseno and have him fix up your arms and legs. And then we can come back and look through this tidal pool for our apartment, because Z City at this point is an ocean city swamp. No buildings, nothing. So Saitama's house is gone. He's going to have to find new accommodations, which we will find out in the next coming chapters. And yeah, I'm excited to cover the next one. This was a great chapter. So much happened. I loved all the Metal Knight stuff we got. These panels of Metal Knight's drones coming in are just amazing. Great end to Garo's story, and great end to the Monster Association arc. And yeah, if you guys liked the video, give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all in the next one.